Hello, hello. I'm Strider, your host here at Author in the Headlights, and thank you for joining us today. Also, if you go to the bottom right corner, if you happen to be on YouTube, hit that little red subscribe button and you won't miss a single episode. This morning, we're interviewing DV Berkom, and thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
So now I actually ran into you because you were recommended and through just outside sources. It was like a totally cold call. So thank you for spending your time with us this morning. We appreciate it. Now we're going to get down to the action stuff here. And yes, you write, let me see if I remember the heading on your action, adventure, and kick-ass characters.
Yes, I do.
And I might say also that you have some kick-ass reviews with your books. You've got piles of reviews. That's not easy to come by, which must mean that's good work. Thank you for writing good things out there that we can read, because I am a reader, have been since I was old enough to read, actually. There's always been one or two or three books open somewhere and I'm reading all at the same time. So become readers and then somehow became a writer. So thank you for writing great books. Now you've got 3 different series, and they're not just a short series. You've got some long series books. Let's see. You've got Leine Basso thrillers, and you've got Kate Jones thrillers, and you've got your newest series, I think, is your Westerns. Claire Whitcomb Westerns. Now that's going from thrillers to Westerns. Is that different? How do you write those different?
Well, the Westerns are thrillers. They're 3 novellas and they're thrillers in their own right, but I wanted to do something set in the Old West, and I wanted to bring in actual historical characters into the book. And so I did that during the pandemic when it started, pardon me, and it was just the perfect time to do it. So
we've had a lot of work done in the pandemic because you got to sit home and do it mostly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So thrillers. What took you into thrillers? Now that's a unique genre all of its own.
Well, growing up, I read a lot of spy novels and action adventure and all that. I always gravitated toward that. My favorite book that really actually got me into writing was Ken Follett, Eye of the Needle. And it was a World War II thriller where he had a woman be the actual heroine of the book and thwarting the spies and stuff. And I thought, oh, well, that's what's missing, right? I wanted to read more of that because I want those kinds of role models.
Absolutely.
I didn't really have them. I had, the Bond girls, and there were a few things out there, but not really a lot. And so when I got old enough and started really interested in writing, I thought, well, why don't I do that? So I started writing females, what I wanted to see in the books, right? I wanted to see a female who could stand toe to toe with the Jack Reachers of the genre. And according to a lot of the writers, or a lot of the readers, I'm sorry, I think I've done it. So
I said you have great reviews and a lot of them. We can get 20 or 30, sure, just off the cuff. But when you get hundreds, that says something. That says your books are out there. People like what you're writing and they gravitate to it, and then they let you know how good it was. So congratulations from another author to you saying, wow, good work.
It's a lot of work, but it's fun.
It is a lot of work. And you mentioned something there that's also very interesting. You have a lot of female characters, protagonists in your story. I guess they all are, aren't they?
All the main ones are, yes.
All the main ones are, and that is something that was needed. It really was. Nancy Drew. Okay, there you go. Nancy Drew in the Hardy Boys series. There's your mysteries of the early years. And I have read my set of both of them as a kid, often under the covers of the bed because it wasn't supposed to be up late at night with a flashlight.
Right.
I did. Typical, I did. Right. It shows you how much of a reader I was back then. Still am. And so now you've been writing a long time in order to have this many books out there. When did you start writing, or what got you into writing?
My husband and I kind of semi-retired back in 2005. He sold his business and we moved around and I was looking for something to do because I wasn't working and I like to work. And I love reading, and I thought, oh, maybe I can write a book. So I took 2005, it took a year to write a book, and it was crap. So put it away, and then wrote another book. The next one took me 6 months, but it took a year and a half to edit the way I wanted it, right? And I was learning as I was going. I joined a few clubs and a few organizations, writer organizations, and
Mhm.
just learned as much as I could, because I realized after that first book how hard it really is
It is.
to write a coherent story that people will enjoy, right?
Yeah, for those
So
outside, you would think it would be simple. I mean, you all know, how
yeah,
many books have you read? How many movies you watch? It's all got this plot line. It's not quite like writing it.
no, it looks so easy, but it
It
certainly
does. The
isn't.
great American novel. Anybody can sit down and do it, right? Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, it takes persistence and perseverance, and that was part of the reason that is part of the reason I really like writing, is because it's a challenge, and it's still a challenge after, 20 some books. It's still a challenge every time I sit
It is.
down,
And
but it's a good challenge.
to edit and then polish and re-edit and repolish and rewrite, and it just is a lot of work.
It is,
There's
but it's
nothing
so much
easy
fun.
about it. Now that's fun. I find it fun, at least. It is fun to write a story because you don't really know what it is until you're writing it. I
Right.
mean, you have a basic outline, maybe, it's going to go over here, but once it gets writing, it's its own story. It takes itself off. Mine do.
Yes, and the characters start talking up in your head, and you end up going ways you just never thought you would, but that makes the story so much better.
True, Pammy, my poor wife, because I start talking like, well, so and so would say this, or here's something that's, Stone would, and his wife would give this. My books are Rowan and Stone, The Adventures of Rowan and Stone.
I love your
Um,
covers, by the way.
I tell you what, they are beautiful. Done by James at Bookfly. I cannot
Ah,
recommend anyone more. I looked through lots of cover artists, and I will say when I looked at his stuff at Bookfly, I would pick up any one of the covers from a store. If I was just, because you buy a book by its cover until you know what it is, or you know the author and you say, well, that's going to be good. You still
right.
buy the book by the cover, and then you
Yep.
turn it over and you look at the back and you go, okay, that's cool. I'll go for it.
Mhm.
Absolutely great work. Yep. And he's working right now. Should have one ready in June for the next book, Recalled. So I'm
Woo-hoo.
waiting to see what's going to come out.
Yay.
Yeah. So good work there. Yes. And I like your covers. That fits your storyline. And that's so important. So important.
Yeah.
Are they
do.
graphically nice to look at, but does it also fit your story, your genre and your storyline on it?
Yeah, I wanted it to convey action, and also like the Kate Jones series doesn't have a person on it, but that conveys a lot of how that series is too. So
Okay. And those are little key things for other authors that are looking for. And I have been talked to by quite a few authors say, what do you think of this cover? What should I do here? So being where I am, I do get a lot of that stuff. And also for those of you that are authors at Durham Publishing, on one of the pages is an author's resource page where we have lists of things that authors need, such as
oh,
cover artists or editors, those kind of things out there, publishers. So DurhamPublishing.com, author's resource page in there. And
nice.
also they can find all of your books. They will be able to find them there at Durham Publishing, the bookstore. So they'll be able to link down to you and find your books and wherever they're sold. That's good.
Nice.
So yeah, that's part of what Durham Publishing does, and the appreciation of you spending your time here putting on this Author in the Headlights series. So thank you for that, and they'll be able to be found there, although they can find them everywhere. I know they're on Amazon. How's that? They can also get through your own webpage. And what is that, by the way? How do they link to that?
It's dvberkom.com. So Berkom is Berkom.
All right, there you go. Okay, dvberkom.com, and you can find her books that way, or more about her and her book series, all of that sort of thing. So we don't mind spreading the good news. That's what this is for. Yeah, so you said how long you've been writing, basically. That's been a long time, since 05. and you got 20 books, and you said about how long it takes, which is a long time. I don't care who you are, it takes a long time. You
Yeah,
get
I've got
written-
it down. I've got it down to about 4 months per book, just for the rough draft, and then a month of editing, because I have a team of really great editors. And then I send it out to beta readers, so they catch even more, because no editor is going to catch everything.
Nope, it just
And
doesn't
you're
happen.
certainly not going to catch it, yourself. So
You
that's a
don't.
really important part. Yeah, it's a really important part of the process. And then, and once that's finished and I have the feedback from that, I make the revisions and then I put it out there.
So you take maybe 4 months or plus, minus, whatever, to write a book. Do you have particular tools of the trade that you use that you would recommend? This works, this hasn't worked so well. You know, anything like that
You mean for the writing part?
for the writing part?
Yeah, I don't use Scrivener or anything like that. I use just Word.
Just Word, okay?
Yep.
That
Yep.
makes it easy to do your docx files because I
Mhm.
happen to use an Apple MacBook Pro, but everything has to be converted because that doesn't
Right.
transfer. It doesn't necessarily transfer correctly. Your fonts
Right.
and drop and things like that different. So I have to convert that to something else in order to transfer. But other than that, it's pretty user friendly. So that's
Mhm.
those kind of things that an author needs to know, a writer at that point.
Mhm.
Because you're not really an author until you're published, I guess, whatever. Until then, it's a manuscript.
The act of writing makes you a writer, I think. The
Yeah,
fact
well,
that you
that's true,
write.
because there's lots of
Yeah.
kinds of writers, not just writing books.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes. Now, are you indie author or are you traditionally published or both?
I'm indie. I was my first, the Kate Jones, The Bad Spirits novellas that I started with. They were online published by a sort of a traditional publisher. And then I realized that I really liked having the control myself and that I could do it myself. And so I got my rights back. They were gracious enough to give me my rights back. And then I just started publishing on my own in 2011. And then 2012, I quit my full-time job. So it worked out pretty well.
All right. Yeah. And there
Yeah.
are some upsides to being indie published, independent publishing.
Mhm.
And that is because it's yours is right there in front. You can change what you want when you want to. You can just reprocess it, republish through your systems, whether it's KDP, which Kindle publishing, or Ingram Spark. You can just do that on your own. Although you do have to do it on your own. You're not letting somebody else do it for you and just going to step in.
Right.
Now,
And
what
I
kind of
actually
books-
like that.
That's true.
Mhm.
When that's your job, that's what you're doing, then you're the
Mhm.
one there doing it. And I appreciate that. So in your editing process, how do you go about that? I mean, you do your own line edits. What part do you do and what part do you farm out to be done for you?
Well, I usually go through, I'll read it to myself out loud, which really helps a lot. And I will go through and just pick out what I need to do. And then I send it off to an actual, professional editor who is a line editor. And once in a while, I'll use a developmental editor. I've only used one a couple of times throughout my career. One of them was because I was just not sure I was nailing the themes and what I wanted to get done with the book, and they really did help a lot. But mainly I just send it off to the editor. They send it back to me, and then I make those edits, and then I send it off to the beta readers, and I've got several beta readers that will give me feedback. So
All right. Sounds good there. Yeah.
yeah, I wish I could write faster. Actually, I have friends of mine who can put out a book in probably, I don't know. I've talked to some people that can do it in a month. I've talked to a lot of people who can do it in 2 months. Yeah, and it's just, I have an internal editor, so I can't just let the words flow like that. I'm very linear and I have to, go from point to point. So for me, I don't think that's possible, but boy, I really wish I could do that.
I'm going to try this year to actually write more so I get more of that linear set and get some work done instead of putzing around. Although
Yeah,
I
life
enjoy
gets
this
in the
and
way.
it does. I say author in the headlights. It's something I need to do. It's what I'm doing, and it takes part of that week. So those are days I'm not writing. I hate to say that. So I got to get
Mhm.
back to some of that and doing that better.
Mhm. I find that when I do it consistently every day at a certain time for a certain amount of time, that it starts to flow a lot more because your subconscious knows that's what you're doing. And so you set yourself up for success that way. So
Well done. Yeah, very good. And speaking of time, I want to say thank you so much for spending some of your time with us today. And I learned you're actually close to me, which is really nice because some have been a long ways away. We're in the same time zone, for goodness sakes. Actually, I could probably look across the sound and say, oh, she lives right over there, both in the Puget Sound here. So that's great. Your books will be on DurhamandPublishing.com, their bookstore. All righty.
Well,
So
thank you very much for having me.
you bet. Thanks for spending your time again. I'm Strider, your host here at Author in the Headlights. Thank you for joining us, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks. Sponsored by DurhamandPublishing.com.